and welcome to the Analytics Forum. My name is Adam Faskowitz. I am a lead data scientist.
And my name is Marcelo Gallardo. I am a principal solutions architect.
And today our session is on Spotfire Actions from Insights to Impact. Short disclaimer slide. And the agenda for today is broken down into 4 sections. So first, we're going to go into just an intro to actions in Spotfire, and then we'll delve into 3 different use cases. The first of which is Listen Up, an anomaly detection solution, then dynamic pricing, and then a pro basketball draft analysis. So to begin, what are Spotfire actions? So a little bit about it is that actions help you act on insights faster. So basically, just with the click of a button in Spotfire, you have access to over 200 commercially supported integrations and over 1,800 community integrations. And with this, you click the button and you're able to initiate an external action that can do things like send a message to Slack or any other of these connectors or possibilities. So as I'm mentioning, there's over 200 commercially supported integrations, and we see that they're across all different type of areas here. So we have business applications like connecting to Salesforce, there's integration technologies, interfaces and protocols. We can write to databases and handle big data, sharing and storage, and reporting and analytics. So there are many examples listed here, but this is endless, and there could be even more commas on this page. So just to help us frame things, I'm going to just quickly now just go into a use case so we can understand when and where we can use a Spotfire action. So in this example, this is Listen Up, and this is anomaly detection on manufacturing audio data. So with this, we're going to invoke a Spotfire action that's going to send an alert via email and Slack about when a certain anomaly has occurred. So a little bit of background on this solution is that audio can be a very cheap alternative to expensive sensors. On the factory floor, sometimes it's easier to just actually listen to the sounds on the floor, and we're able to actually pick up when certain things go wrong. So our solution contains a series of Fourier and MEL transformations that prepares the data for an ensemble of anomaly detection models. So essentially what we had before is on the top right. This is what the raw wave audio file looks like. And we're not really able to make out much, but through our transformations, we're able to convert it basically into this spectrogram, which we can represent as an image. And it's much easier to pick up when something is different than one another. So for this solution, we use a combination of TIBCO data science and Spotfire. So here what we see is a local outlier factor, an autoencoder, and isolation forest. And these will be working as an ensemble that will give us anomaly scores for these snippets of audio data. And it's from within Spotfire where we're going to be able to see certain scores. Well, this was an anomaly and this wasn't. So quickly just showing an example of what this might look like. So we can see that audio data can be streamed into Spotfire, and these scores will be calculated in real time. And then from there, we can go one step further and initiate the Spotfire action that can send you an alert via an email or Slack. So here inside Spotfire, we have a look at our dashboard, and we see that there are many snippets of time intervals where we can see the spectrogram images. And for this latest one, though, we see that there are high anomaly scores for each of them. So if we feel like this does look different than everything else, we can go in and confirm that this is something that I would like to send an alert about. So doing so, I can select over that one piece of data. And from there, I can click on this button on the top right to initiate my Spotfire action. So let me just show you a little bit of how I can configure this. So opening up the properties panel in our visualization, we'll see that almost all the visualizations I've run into have this new actions tab. And with this, it's very easy for us to set up one of these actions. So we can add a certain button. So this can be a floating button, right-click menu option, or a title bar button. And with it, we just hook it up to one of our existing available actions. So here I've set up this listen up app. And if I edit it, we can see that the way that we set it up is actually like very similar to the way that the data function flyout works in Spotfire. So there are certain properties that we can hook up to this action that will be taken in as inputs. So there's like things like, in this case, the start date, the end date, which specific part we're looking at, and also an image of when the anomaly occurred. So with this setup, and now that that's all configured, if I just go ahead and click on this in the top right and click approve, what this will do is it'll send an email and a Slack message about this anomaly. So moving into my mailbox, if I just refresh on my mail, I see that there's a new message that has come in. And if I open it up, we see that it's coming from Marcelo and it's saying, hello, Adam, there was an anomaly detected for fan number 2. This is the time interval of the data, and attached below is an image of what this anomaly looked like. So I can have the attachment there. I can actually get the Spotfire visual that indicated to me that this was an anomaly. I see that it does seem to have a couple of like little streaks here, and it is something to look deeper into. So in addition to this, though, I can also see this through Slack. Now looking at Slack, I see that there's a new message that has come in as well. And for this, I see that there was an anomaly detected for fan 2, start date, end date, please take action as necessary. So the same message has now come in, both in form of email and as a Slack message. And all this could be federated appropriately too. So I could be in charge of fan 2. Maybe when an anomaly comes up, I receive that through Slack, or maybe I do it through email. And it will actually be Marcelo just in a little bit. I can tell you a little bit about how that decision process can happen. So now I'll actually turn it over to Marcelo, and he'll go, a little bit under the hood about how these actions work and how we can use them.
In this segment, I will talk about the implementation details for the actions Adam just demonstrated. As shown in the diagram, Spotfire is capable of invoking actions that are exposed as a REST service. The beauty of this approach for the actions is that they can be implemented using any framework or platform, as long as they are exposed to REST. This means that developers are not limited to a specific technology and have the freedom to choose the most suitable option for their needs. The only requirement for the actions framework or engine is that it exposes the actions as a REST API. So for this particular demo, we use a Tifco's integration as a service platform, which is optimized for REST-based and API use cases. It supports a zero-code and API-first approach to planning, designing, and implementing applications. It enables you to build and connect applications all from inside the browser. As we can see here on the startup dashboard, the user can select a tool from a list of available capabilities. And for this demo, we selected to use integration capability. As previously mentioned, the Tifco integration wizards allows you to create the applications without having to leave your browser. With a drag and drop paradigm for configuration, you are able to implement logic and integrate with a large number of external systems. These systems include like messaging systems like Kafka, cloud and on-premise databases like MySQL, Postgres, and Snowflake, cloud file systems like S3, or CRM systems like Salesforce, and many, many more. Also from the same interface, the user can validate, test, and deploy the applications. So designing and implementing the business logic is a very straightforward process of putting together different components representing steps in a process. In this particular flow, for example, we configure an HTTP receive activity, which will trigger the flow when an event is received from Spotfire. Also in the flow, we log the request, then we call the decision service, which will provide the details on who to send the notifications and what notification method to use. Right after that, we log the results from the decision table. Next, we use an email activity to send the email notifications. And finally, we publish the message to a Kafka broker. If we drill down in one of the activities, for example, the activity we're seeing right now is the email activity. We can see that the different fields and the information the user is required to provide or map the data from the incoming event. So in this case, the user enters the connection information and the credentials to connect to the email server, and also maps the data returned from the decision table to the input field for the email recipients. Similarly, as the email activity, the Kafka activity requires the user to provide a connection information as well as the topic and the message content to be sent to the broker. So in addition to the integration tools, we also leverage typical decision tables that to enable users to easily change the behavior of the system to business rules that are configurable from the same browser interface and also with no code involved. In this case, we allow the users to specify preferences for the delivery system to use, like the email or Slack for notifications, as well as to select specific recipients for the notifications based on the source of the event. So the possibilities with actions are endless, and this can be accomplished with typical TCI or with any platform of your choice, as long as the tools provide a REST interface. Spotfire provides the tooling to easily integrate with these platforms exposing REST APIs. And also more of these capabilities will be integrated to provide a seamless and easy integration through the Open API specification. The integration will allow to easily use the Spotfire data in the API calls and the actions to be triggered on demand or from the data events. Now I pass control back to Adam for the next use case.
Thanks, Marcelo. I will now go over two different use cases to further demonstrate what is possible with Spotfire Actions. So for this use case, dynamic pricing, we're going to analyze where the results of a model didn't match the actual results of our data. And with that, we'll invoke a Spotfire action that can upload these instances into a Postgres database for further investigation. So now let's move over to Spotfire. So inside Spotfire now, what we're looking at is the results of three different models that are predicting whether someone was going to renew or not renew on their policy. And for each of these, there's a distribution of probabilities of whether that model thought that the user would renew. What I'm particularly interested in is where the model was very confident that they would renew, but they didn't. Like what is happening for those users? What can we learn about them? So if I raise this threshold to 0.93 or something high like that, I'm able to really just key into these specific instances. And here on the bottom, we see a confusion matrix for all three models. So this shows me where the actual result was a renewal or not a renewal, and then whether it was predicted by the model to be a renewal or not a renewal. So on the top right here is something that I'm particularly interested in. So for this elastic net logistic regression, I see that there are only 14 instances where the model thought that the policy would be renewed, but it didn't. So with Spotfire Actions now, what I can do is that next step. So just by clicking on this button on the top right, I'm able to initiate this action, and the prompt that will show up for me is a message. And basically what I want to do is create a message that I can tie to these instances into a database. So I might say something like, these rows were not renewed despite high confidence from our models. So then if I click next, it shows me that everything is hooked up appropriately, and I can click the approve button. And now if I turn over to the next tab here, I can go, I can go ahead and refresh this data here on the data canvas. And now we see that there are new instances that we are looking into with messages about whether or not this needs to be looked into deeper or not. So that was my use case on dynamic pricing. Now, the final use case that I will look into is our pro basketball draft analysis. So for this, our DXP is analyzing different players that could be selected in the upcoming NBA draft. So we would like to see the strengths and weaknesses of these players so we can be better informed about who to draft. It's in this dashboard where we will invoke a Spotfire action that will essentially take a snapshot of the insight that we found in Spotfire and then upload an image of that page into Google Drive that's easily shareable with the rest of the decision makers on the team. Now in Spotfire, what we can do is look into different players and what their statistics might look like. So here on the top, we have the projected top 10 picks in this NBA draft. And if I click on different players, we can see how the rest of the dashboard might change. And we see that there are certain strengths and weaknesses of a player. We see here for Paolo, he's particularly good offensively. And it's through actually here on the bottom left, Spotfire mods. We're able to get custom visualizations. So I think in this case, we're looking at a rose chart. Found this to be like a cool way to basically see the breakdown of his game. So we're very easily able to see how good of a player he is and which statistics he excels in. And then also on the right side, we see an analysis that we did to see compare the college statistics of these prospects with those of the current players in the NBA. So if really good players in the NBA had similar college statistics to Paolo Banchero, that might indicate that Paolo might also be successful once he reaches the NBA. So we see a lot of gold here, which is essentially our metric to take a look at the star power for the players in the NBA. We see a lot of that here, which is a good thing. And we also can see kind of the overlay of the shape of their game using a different Spotfire mod as well. So I'll go back into Jalen Duren here. And so essentially, I think like for my team, I'm looking into, I'm trying to target like a defensive player. So I see that he really excels in block and block percentage. And I also see on the top right that he's very similar to Derek Favors, who ended up being a very successful NBA player. So what I can do with this information is I want to basically save this page and be able to share it with the other coaches on the team. So it's with the Spotfire action where I can go to the top right and approve this, and this will take the snapshot of the page and we can see it in Google Drive. Moving into Google Drive, we see that there is a new image that has just come up. We see that it's called Jalen Duren Analysis, and we see that it looks just like the page that we're just looking at. So essentially what this has done is like every time I reach something where I want to be able to remember this snapshot and share it and only highlight the important things, I can use a Spotfire action to basically upload these into a shared folder that makes it very easy to do. So what have we seen today? So we've seen 3 different vertical use cases where we've utilized Spotfire actions in a different manner. So we've been able to send email and Slack messages. We've been able to upload policies to investigate into Postgres. And we've also been able to upload basically snapshots of Spotfire into Google Drive. And the possibilities with Spotfire actions really are endless though. So this is a table we created just that kind of wrote down some of the different vertical use cases that we can look into basically as rows. And then also on the columns, all the different actions that we can take. And we see that there's a lot of orange here indicating all the possibilities that are here. But in actuality too, like the amount of columns here doesn't just stop here. It goes hundreds, if not thousands. In this table, and also the same could be said for the rows because almost any single use case can be utilizing these Spotfire actions. So just as a reminder, there are over 200 commercially supported connectors available for us. So be sure to check them out and get started with Spotfire Actions. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference.